Hi, this is Liz, and today I'm going to be talking about Falling, which is the 25-page comic I just finished up, I think the week before last. If you haven't seen it, then there's a link in the description. Go check it out and then come back. Or if you don't feel like checking it out, you don't have to. You can click away from the video or you can watch it and have things spoiled. That is all down to you. So I asked if there were any questions, and I did get some good questions, so I'm going to start with those, I think. Here we go. First question. What's the page you're most pleased with? And I thought about this for a while. I think I have to say page number 5, which is this one. Yeah. I think it works well as far as panel layout goes, color, use of shift and saturation, and the progression of time, illustrating the progression of time. I think it works well for that, which is what it needed to do. There were 2 runners-up, and those were pages 14, which I think works. I'm pleased with it because of the narrative. I think the action reads fairly clearly, plus the last 3 panels always make me giggle. And the other runner-up was page 18, which is this one. And I'm not crazy about the page layout. I think it could have used some more variety. But again, I think the narrative works quite well. It's fairly easy to read. And again, the last few panels make me giggle. I don't know what it is about making this character uncomfortable or putting them in situations where they don't understand what's going on entirely, but it makes me smile. That question also got me to thinking about what my favourite pages were, and favourite as far as to work on, as well as the finished product. And I think I'd have to say page 4 and page 25, the last page. This one. So page 4 and 25 have to be my favourite pages, my favourite ones to work on, and the ones that I just like to look at, and it is mainly because of the colour. Yeah, this series, the 25 pages, were, for the most part, very desaturated. Pages 1 through 3, it's grey and red, with a little bit of blue, and then page 4 is just full colour. And then page 5, everything desaturates. I think you just desaturated with very muted colours until you start getting back into it, and then saturation starts creeping back in, you get more and more colours until page 25. And 24 is pretty close, but I did save the full saturation, or full page saturated, for 25, so those are my 2 favourites. Right, so next question. What pages, if any, are the real world? The short answer is none of them. None of the pages are the real world. But it's all based on the real world, or it's all pulling from the real world. So it's not entirely fantasy, but it is definitely surreal and abstract. So yeah, I mean, the comic is a surreal setting in which I put abstracted experiences and events from the real world. So none of it is set in the real world, but it's all connected to the real world. The next question is, what's the deal with the cat lady? And I believe the cat lady you are speaking of is the one featured in this lovely page. And the cat lady is based on a few people I've met, one person in particular, and the thing they've all had in common is this particular certainty, either about their identity, who they are, or where they want to go, what they want to do with their life. There's just been this really particular certainty about them. And they've all liked cats. So it was the one common thread between these people who inspired this character. They all liked cats. So she's a cat lady. And also, I just liked that it would distinguish this character from the main character and most of the other characters that you see briefly. So that's the deal with the cat lady. As far as what she's doing there, or what her purpose is, I'm sure she knows what her purpose is. I don't know what her purpose is. I do know what she's doing there, though. She is. I purposely placed this character in an area of the world I like to think of as the liminal space, or the in-between. So it's at a point in the story, it's at a point in the landscape that is between places. It's nowhere specific. It's in the in-between. So for the character, it's between the path they were on and a new path they're about to take. In the landscape, it's between, well, being there and not being there, as it were. And there's just this interesting interplay between existence, non-existence, magical, non-magical, mystical, questioning kind of place that I really like to play with. So I knew the cat lady would be a character that would come into play when the main character is at a point where they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do next. They know they don't want to go back on with what they were doing, but they don't know what else they could be doing. So I knew this character would come into play there. And I thought, what better place to have that kind of an encounter than a liminal space, an in-between. So that's the deal with the cat lady. So those are the questions I got, and thank you very much for those questions. And now I'm going to talk about things I learned from doing a 25-page comic called Falling. And I'm going to start off with this one bit. Everything takes longer than you expect it will. Note on that, Google Images, very, very helpful. If you've watched some of the other videos, some of the what I'm working on videos, you'll know I used Google Images a fair amount on most of the pages, particularly once I got to climbing ladders. I used Google Images a lot. Very helpful. I'm looking at you, the pleated skirt. But the positive that I noticed was over the 25 pages, I got faster. I got faster at drawing the little dude, the main character. I got faster at drawing the layouts. I got faster at doing the panel layouts. So that's encouraging. But the interesting thing is, even though it was difficult sometimes, and even though it wasn't necessarily the best for my stress levels, I actually managed to stick to the schedule, and I got this comic finished. Which I did the first 3 panels, the first 3 pages in 2013, and I wasn't going to go further, actually. I did the first 3 pages for a class, and the rest of the class saw, and a couple of them came up and said, hey, I really like the story, what happens next? I was like, well, I hadn't really thought about doing anything else. I knew there was more, but I hadn't thought about actually making more of the comic. So it kind of sat in the back of my head for a couple years, and then the beginning of last year, it's actually about a year ago, I joined this comicking meetup group, which has been absolutely fantastic. It's been so great to actually have other people who do this there, and it's one hell of a motivator. Definitely that. And really helpful to have people to ask questions of. Really helpful to have people I can go to and ask questions. So that was the impetus of, well, okay, I've had this comic kind of sitting there at 3 pages. I should probably think about doing more. I have thought about doing more. I've just never actually sat down and planned it out. And so last year was when I sat down and said, okay, I'm going to finish this. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'm going to finish this. And I went from there. So yeah, thank you to South Bay Comicers, without whom I probably would never have finished this comic. We do have a website. I will put it in the description below. You should definitely check it out. There are a lot of really great people in this group. So, that is Falling. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment in the down below. And yeah, check out the South Bay Comicers. I'll put a link, as I said, I'll put a link to the site down in the description. I believe we still have links to everyone's individual sites, so you can check out everyone's work, and it'll be great. And yeah, thank you for watching this strange, rambling, stumbling video about me talking about the first comic I've managed to finish. I'll see you later. Cheers!